So there are a couple of questions regarding the disciplinary process for the RCVS and what my opinions are, how I would think about maybe changing the process. The main issues I see at the moment are firstly that the process takes a particularly long time period to occur, and this creates a lot of stress and uncertainty for individuals going through the process, and it's just really not acceptable that it's going on for such a long time. So the first thing I'd want to do is try and work out how we can shorten the time process. The second one is that quite often people going through the process don't understand what's happening, and it seems incredibly scary. And whilst it's useful having organisations like the VDS who can talk you through, and often colleagues can be very supportive, I think the RCVS doesn't do a particularly good job of explaining what's going on or offering any support to individuals going through a complaint. Now obviously the RCVS has got to be shown to be impartial, but at the same time I think there is a duty of care, because the amount of stress that the process occurs, it seriously impacts mental health and has a potential to drive some individuals to suicide. So I think the RCVS really needs to think about what mechanisms it can put in place to try and demystify the process slightly and make it seem less intimidating. There were also some thoughts about whether the process should involve laypersons. Personally, as someone who grew up being told that we're a self-regulating profession, the idea of having laypersons on the RCVS or in the disciplinary process is not one that sits particularly comfortably with me. I would prefer to see it being run by clinicians, but at the same time I think there is a potential argument that having laypersons on the disciplinary committee does add some balance, because it enables the case to be considered from how the clients might see it, so people who aren't in the veterinary profession see things differently. Again, I'm not particularly comfortable with this, because typically the whole point of the process is to see if we've acted appropriately, and if you're not in the profession it can be very hard to understand the stresses and the decisions we make. But at present I wouldn't be rushing to remove those laypersons from the process, but I would be thinking about their involvement and how appropriate it is. I hope that answers that question. There was a question about emergency care as well. So one person asked whether I would be considering freeing the profession from the burden of providing 24-hour care. Now I can understand from a business owning perspective this is quite a significant concern in terms of staffing, manpower, but at the same time I think it comes down to a question of whether we're vets because it's a job, just another career, or whether it's a vocation. I think the provision of out-of-hours care, 24 hours, making sure that there is always care for animals is an important one. I think it's a good thing to offer, so I wouldn't be rushing to remove that requirement.